Just as a a reminder too that even with us, we kind of learned the basics of Bakwa at the same time we were learning our Tai Chi. They help each other, and Bakwa, even though as much as I hated it in my 20s, uh, became a big resource for me, kind of like how Ryan uses it now. It became my go-to when I really was just felt like my mind or my heart was pounding a lot, with a lot of chaos and stuff. It was a way of just kind of walk and settle your mind, breathe a little bit, things like that. So I found it very helpful from that standpoint. And later it became a big part of my kung fu understanding, which is now kind of where Ryan is. He's kind of elevated his Bakwa applications over the past, what was it, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Yeah, we really started digging. Yeah, we put him in graduate school of Bakwa about 3 weeks ago, and tonight one of the things I thought we would do a couple of little exercises, and I really wanted to work. I sent a video out today, at least through a couple of groups, showed it in a couple of classes of a tiger stalking, and the Tai Chi classics would read things like stepping like a cat. And of course, a lot of people, when they translate a lot of the Chinese martial arts from statements like that, they will try to physically represent the animal. And so, it was so funny. He would see somebody doing monkey kung fu, and he was like, "What? The stupid shit is exactly the way." He was like, that has nothing to do with it. In fact, I have the article that he even wrote uh, uh, when he got interviewed about how stupid it was on how many people would interpret the animal kung fu as a physical representation of the animal. Uh, when the tiger's walking, that's not what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is understand how is it walking, and how, if that was me trying to do the same thing, would it come out of me? Okay. Um, so let's do a couple little warm up exercises, and then we're going to get right to it. Okay, a couple of double spirals. Oh, hey, Karen, you missed all the colorful stuff, Karen. Ah, a beautiful evening. Oh yeah. Do two more. Good. Okay. And now let's dragon whips his tail, whip it around. Now, if you have, if you need to change this up because your hips or back are bothering you, it's okay. Just don't make it as big. Mm. Okay. So what I want to do is kind of go through part of that lesson, and then we're going to do a little posting, and then we're going to practice it. Okay. In the tiger walking, if you haven't seen the video or see how it works, when the cat is preparing itself, and it locks down on its prey, the first thing it does, of course, is just stop. And when it stops, everything it has is not only stopped, it's poised, right? So it's ready to move. And once it starts to step, what you'll see is that it will step, and sometimes its foot will hover above the ground to make sure that the prey doesn't see it. And then when it's confident, it'll sit it down, and it never takes its eyes off of the prey. And it'll shift its weight over, And so when you hear me say, where's your intent? That's the same idea. Is then the foot slides, and when you're ready, it sits down, and then you keep your intent, and you slide your weight over. And that walking, whether I'm doing it quickly or slowly, it's the same mentality. Okay. Now, one of the things with Tai Chi is that, Tai Chi, Xing Yi, and Bakua all have three types of walking. Ryan, Bob Speed, maybe a couple other people, but I know those two particularly hear me complain a lot of times about how a lot of Chinese martial arts instructors just take all the Kung Fu and they throw it in together like a stew, and they don't teach you the specifics of each style because in some cases that's not how they were taught. They learned lump fu, right? And that's how they pass it down, right? And Sifu Chin would hammer us, just like I hammer y'all about, don't turn my Tai Chi into Xing Yi, damn it. Right? Right? I mean, not everything is Xing Yi, right? Yeah. So when you're learning Tai Chi, the stepping is always stepping like a cat. Now, the tempo, once you can do that, you can change the tempo to a short step, long step, which in Tai Chi gives you the ability to short and then take that into a kick. Okay. That's why a lot of times once you start learning Tai Chi further, you want to be able to make sure that your foot is empty. And then when it sits down, you're quiet. And when you see a 750-pound tiger walking across this sort of ground and you can't hear even one leaf, it gives you an idea about how much we're falling our asses across the ground. Okay. So that's the idea. Well, any questions? That's a lot of material just in that. The one thing that it does, though, is that it's not going to be easy because it takes more physical strength. So you won't necessarily always be able to do it because you have to build up strength and then stamina. Okay. And the other thing it does is it changes the rest of your techniques because all your timing changes. All right. So we're going to do a little posting and then we're going to go into what we'll do is pick a technique or two and work on it from there. All right. But it's good to just start from stillness. Let's take a breath. As you exhale, let everything just settle down. Whether you're seated or standing does not matter. What matters here is that you settle your hips, breathe a little bit, and exhale slow. Let's take one more breath. And I think perhaps the best way to kind of practice this as a unit together is we'll do the 5 directions. Okay. And so what I'll do is we're going to slide our way over and hold the baby. And remember, we're trying to reel the silk while we're doing this. Okay. So you want to be connected, but we're going to focus mostly on the lower body. Your left foot is going to step out slightly at an angle. Make sure that right before you put it out there, and then it lays on the earth, but nothing else is moved. Okay. Then you begin to shift the weight 1 inch. There's your bump. Begin to turn the waist and expand and out. Then reel the silk in, roll it up. The right foot steps out at an angle. Get your intent over there. Move your body weight forward 1 inch. And then begin to rotate and continue to move forward. Take a breath or two right there. Just stay there. Connect yourself from palm to palm through your back. From here, the hands are going to reach up just in front of your eyes. And they're going to pull and feel the twisting of the ropes through the palms. The palms should be turning a little bit as you sit back. And that was your line of intent. Now you'll change that line of intent. Now you're going to look over to your left toe and reach up just above the eyes. Once you're here, ideally you'll be able to pick up your right foot, step back at an angle. There you go. Sit it down, bend the knees, sitting back, twisting the ropes a little bit as you turn those palms. Good. Okay, I'm gonna get back in the frame here, make sure I'm still in front of the camera. I get in my zone, forget where I'm at. Okay. For this one, our right hand in this case is going to twist and come up and lay onto the left wrist. You're going to step out with the left foot. Remember now, empty. Bump, shift forward 1 inch, then begin to turn. Bring the right toe around with you and press out. Wipe off the back of your hand. Pull back. In this case, you don't have to worry about the foot because it's already down. But I want you to practice shifting forward and pressing down and out. I want you to sit back like you're pulling everything, like Karen's pulling that tree towards you, right? I mean, everything about your intent is with it. From here, as you turn, separate the mountains, like you're pushing 2 mountains apart. Of course, your body can't separate 2 mountains, but your mind can. And then you now from here, keep twisting and working the ropes. So the left hand lies on the right wrist. I step out with my right foot. I got this. Oh, yeah. All right. Then pressing. Turn the toe in with you. Good. Wash the back of your hand. Sitting back. Check your poise. Is your head upright? Is your spine upright? Do you look like you got a little bounce in you? Right. And now exhale and press forward. All right. You're going to pull the wall, pull the tree to you as you sit back. Pull it in with your mind. And as you begin to turn, you're going to push up, push the sky, separate the mountains again, and just bring it to a close. Okay. All right. Any questions on your footwork? How did that feel? No, no comments, but felt your knees. Yeah, yeah. Like they were complaining, right? Yeah. How about you, Karen? It was pretty quiet. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. So we were quiet out here in these dry leaves. That's it. Yeah, I would say that. Bader, how did you do with it? Okay. All right. Are y'all okay online? Did it work okay for you all? Okay, good. Okay, great. All right. So, one of the things I'd like for you to do now, what one message, okay, because I've had this conversation privately with some of you, and I know Ryan and I have spoken about this. You know, this is a real concerted effort over these past few weeks to help every one of you really become the Tai Chi practitioner that you're ready to become today. Okay. Now that may change in 6 months. Okay. You may want to learn more. You may want to be able to have more power. You might want to be able to learn how to do it with application more and things like that. Right. But as of today, my responsibility is met as the instructor. That you have the foundations, that you know how to move the body 1 inch, you know how to step, and and are practicing reeling the silk. Because if you can't step like a cat and reel the silk and move the body 1 inch, I don't give a rat's ass how much form you know. You could call yourself an instructor of Tai Chi, but it won't look and feel right. And then you're going to meet somebody one day who does know it, and they help you understand a little bit. But the reason is that because and the reason I'm saying that is because you can be a good Tai Chi practitioner and only have one movement. Maybe all you can do is brush knee and do it right. But if you can just do one, and I can just sit there and watch you do, for example, single whip, and every detail is met, and you sit and settle. The idea here is you don't have to know a bunch of techniques in order to become an excellent Tai Chi practitioner. If you know one movement and do it that well, the rest just are so much easier. Okay. So I would encourage you to do that. So what I'd like for you to do right now is, whether you're at home in your living room, wherever you're at, do you think it'd be appropriate for me to tell them about the 1 inch cultural story? No? Okay. We'll save that for later. Okay. I want you to pick a technique that you're comfortable with and practice it with the in any direction you want. Now, we call this the three leopards practice when you're learning it for a martial piece. What this means basically is that if you have the space of a dinner table, don't don't constrain yourself to just working in one direction, like walk down the table this way, turn around, walk around this way. You can do like that 5 direction step. You can turn any way you want to. You can do diagonals, whatever you want. Let's just pick one technique and slow it down, try to reel the silk so I can kind of get a good feel for what you might do on your own. No, each on this is totally individual. Totally individual. You do what you feel like you could do. Ah, nice. There you go. Keep it going for about another 30 seconds or so. Okay. All right. I'm going to be, I was watching those of you online for a little bit. Give me a thumbs up, you all, if you feel like you were getting some out of that. Good, 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 good. Okay. All right. Good. All across the board. All right. Those of you out here with me now, what I'd like for you to realize is that stepping has a progression. You all learn it, the cat stepping, just like I did, where I'll tell you, hey, let the foot slide out, put the heel down, then let it flatten out to the earth, bend the front knee, slide the weight 1 inch, begin to turn your waist in advance. Same statement every time, right? Right. To nauseum, right? Now, if you can do that and you feel like, okay, I feel pretty good with that, then the next progression after that is to walk the same way, but then you get to the true stepping like a cat, which is where when you put the foot out, it lands flat. And then you bend the knee, shift it 1 inch, and then you move forward. It is a lot more difficult to move it out there and lay it down flat than perhaps anything else, because you got to really stay intent. The other thing I like for you all to practice when you're doing it is to pick your line of intent, know where you're going, and really just I hate to use the word hyper focus, but without distraction. And the reason I'm saying that is, I was telling folks in Pinehurst, you hear Sifu Chin, and Ryan's heard this 1,000 times. When we push hands, for example, and see, I mean, probably have video, but 100% attention. When you're coming back, 100% attention. Now, we use that word and phrase so flippantly. Of course, Ryan, if he's not paying 100% attention, I pound him in the chest. So there's a penalty for not paying attention, right? And it's not comfortable because I got beat and pounded. Bob Speed's been pounded. Vader's been pounded, right? If the tiger takes his attention off to look at the airplane or whatever else, he don't get to eat today. 100% attention, like your life depended on it, like your day depended on it. Yes, right. That's exactly right. But the idea is that, that level of focus as you're working and as you're sliding, you keep your attention out here, not down here on your feet. Okay. And work through your progressions. Try to land with a flat foot if you can. But if it bothers you, just go to a heel toe. All right. Now, the other thing I have wanted to kind of review again is this turning and twisting of the rope. Okay, well, in health versions of Tai Chi, they would translate it as silk reeling because silk would look graceful, right? Which is fine if you can do that, but you still got to be able to have texture. That's why I give you those images. Like if I'm moving forward, I'm pulling the wall. Being a farm boy, I used to think about when I had to push the tobacco wagons, right? I mean, some 8-year-old, sure as crap, the farmer's son, would get the tobacco wagon stuck in a ditch, and you're trying to push it out, right? Anyway, they would call it more like twisting ropes. So when you're pulling and pushing, I like for you to have texture in your mind as if you're pulling a, like I like to use church bell or something like that, a big heavy rope. And you can see, I'm gonna get a little closer to the camera. A lot of times when I'm really intent, my fingers will look like they are alive. They're not just, that's when I can tell what you're doing, right? If you look like you're a little fairy, just, playing around, right? I know you're feeling good about it, which is fine, right? But and then you would have me, right? When I would first started, and I swear I was like, so tense. Yeah, I wasn't as bad as Bader, but I was bad. But the idea is that you have to find yourself in those. So let's so that you can learn to apply your favorite techniques, and it's okay to have a favorite, but you want to also practice a well-rounded pieces of it and then stick all that back into your form. The other reason I was saying that is because a lot of times cloud hands, when you're stepping in cloud hands, you're still going to step and hover that foot out to the side and then slide the weight across. And this is where I know Bader's worked on this a bunch, and so has Ryan, but when you get right here at the end, your weight should feel like it's 100%. It's been shifted, right? And then as it's turning, you pick that toe up, slide it down, shift your weight over to it, and the other one slides out again. Changes things, doesn't it? Changes the timing. All right, work on that a little bit more. Go the other way. Not just the same way, Bader. Right? Work in both directions. So when you're stepping like a cat, that applies to the side just as well. All right, Bob, your timing has gotten back flipped over. Okay, you know it has. Good. All right. Well, because when your timing in the lower body changes, it can start to play with the timing in the upper body. Mm-hmm. Well, that just like in any other technique, your body weight change, whether I'm doing the parting horse's mane, the body weight change in the cloud hand could finish right about in here, right? That's about as far as I can go. And so then as my empty leg now moves, this is where it lifts. And then when I get to this end, and that's as far as I can go, as this is transitioning, that foot slides out and then it rolls over. So, having that full weight change so that you have an empty step. Bader's been beat with a stick. Maybe speed hasn't been, and I know what has occasionally been racked. I know Ryan has too, because I see this, and I have, I've kind of been rough on a couple of you, where we use phrases like slop, right? Yeah, right. The this is also one of the things that you've also heard me. This is why we don't pivot, and why we don't practice pivoting, and why you don't practice sliding your foot. You can't step like a cat and slide your damn feet across the ground. It can't be done. You will go hungry today. Right? And there is no pivot. Right? I mean, not right now anyway, okay? You might have a pivot, but it's going to be a very quick pivot. Right? Exactly. So all this footwork data that I'm trying to provide you gives you a level of consciousness. So you can just put your hand right, here and just sit and slide over to a side shift your weight. If you'll turn your waist a little bit, you'll empty that leg. Just let it slide in a little, slide the weight. That looked good, Karen. That looked good. Easier with no hands. Absolutely. Absolutely, it is. That's why I want you to practice it that way, both in your bow stance walking. If it's ever a problem, that's why I teach y'all that way. Reed was the one who kind of coined the phrase, the no hands practice, because it helped him a lot. But I used to practice like I used to put my hand right here and make a triangle on my belly button so I would know where it was pointing, right? So I could sit here and go, hold the baby, hover, and then I would see the inch, because the triangle shouldn't move the first inch. It should start moving after that first inch. Then when it gets here, it's finished. And then I settle and I get that foot all the way here. The triangle never moves. And then once it's down, it goes an inch and then it begins to turn. And that's how I would do it. So I would know exactly where I was. Last piece for tonight. Yeah, I know I've kept y'all a little bit late, but it's really a game changer. Okay, as far as your footwork and your cat stepping. I'm going to demonstrate it first. Ryan was working on this some here more recently. When I slide out on my stepping and my foot goes out, just like I did before, and I move the first inch and then I begin to rotate. When I get to the end, I don't just stop. Okay. The string of pearls metaphor y'all have heard me talk about before, where every technique is one pearl. And your objective is to start to string them together, one pearl after another, like a string of pearls. The lesson in that is that you can't tell when one pearl ends and the next one begins when they become a string. That's why it's so important, and y'all will hear me a lot of times get onto you. If I see you slide your weight and then you just stop, and then you just go to the next technique. Because it's okay if you're just working on one pearl at a time and you have no intention of stringing them together. To create that feeling for you, okay, you can do that with no hands. If I slide, step out, just watch me, okay? Just watch me. Slide the weight, turn, and then at the close to the very end, like the last 10%, just settle your weight. Don't stop, settle. Now, as I settle, the rear foot empties. And then I can go out the other way. And I slide, turn, and settle. Now, if I do that and I add the technique to it, when I get to here and I slide out to the single whip, I don't stop and then come up and do the next one. When you're watching me, I'll step out, slide, and then settle. When I settle is when you see that little bit of like Tai Chi, right? But that's when it settles, and then the next technique starts, and I can move that way and just add that little transition at the very last end, and that's what gives you the opportunity then to start stringing together the pearls, where everyone is a little bit close. And when I get to a loy, for example, settle, and then it becomes a string. That takes focus, takes the footwork, and just paying attention to your practice. Okay? That's a lot of material. It will change everything you already know. But if you can just do one or two techniques and do them well, like a lot of y'all have improved a lot, it's really going to look a lot better and feel better. And I can promise you, outsiders will look at you, even if you only know one movement, they go, they're doing Tai Chi. They can tell. All right. Anyway, great work tonight. And I will see you all a little bit later.